All right, well, good afternoon. I think this is like week 5, right, LOD, of daily drop-ins that we've been doing. We are doing video production this week, which is one of the most requested topics that we get from folks across the state. We're super excited. We have the LOD unit here. So I'm Danae Wolf. I'm the Ed Tech Specialist with the Learning and Org Development Unit. We have Amy Kometcher on the call, our Instructional Development Specialist, who will be helping us out today. I also wanted to take a few minutes to pass it on over to Rachel, who's going to introduce herself along with the Studio 149. And then I also see John Rice is on the call. I would invite you, John, too, to just say a few words about your position, and then we'll invite John to take the stage later in this session to talk a little bit about branding and some video production from his perspective as our video production lead for the college. So Rachel, I'll go ahead and hand it to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Leggett. I am a video program assistant. I work out of the Delaware County office. And I am, I guess, one of the founding members of Studio 149. So that was kind of the brainchild of Rob Leeds. He decided he wanted to bring a lot of fun to educational videos. So that's kind of our mission. So I came at it with a film background. So I do a lot of the video production, editing, all of that kind of stuff. The rest of the team is Jackie Smith. She is an A&R 4-H educator working out of the Delaware office, and Kenzie Johnston. She is an A&R CD educator that works out of the office as well. So that's our team. We produce a lot of different kinds of content. We've done on-farm research trial videos. We've done different promotional videos for programs we're having. We did some videos for the annual conference last year. So we love partnering with people who are excited about making video. So really excited about this week. Hopefully everyone can learn a little bit and we'll have a good time. And thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, so John, not to put you on the spot there, but if you want to introduce yourself, if you're ready.
I am ready. Yeah, my name is John Rice. I am the team lead for video and photography with marketing communication, which is a part of advancement in the College of Food, Ag, Environmental Sciences. Let's see, on my team, we have a full-time photographer. We have a full-time video producer. We have an open position for another producer, but that's just kind of on pause because of what's going on right now with the university. And I have a background in doing video production, been with the college for quite a while, been through a lot of changes, done a lot of educational, promotional, now a lot of marketing type stuff for social media type videos. And I also, being part of marketing communications, handle a lot of the issues with branding for videos that are produced outside of our office. And so I guess that's a quick overview.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
So we just have a wealth of knowledge that will be helping us out this week for our video production bootcamp. I am going to share quickly the schedule that we have for this week. This is available on our LOD website under our drop-in training tab under the COVID link. Just to give you kind of a snapshot of what we'll be covering, we sort of decided to format this week into sort of a low production track and then a high production track. Today is relevant no matter where you are in your video production journey. This is relevant for both beginners and intermediate and really even advanced video producers. We're going to be talking about some of the homework that you need to do before you decide to just jump into video. Tomorrow, we will have one of our high production video tracks where we will be talking about filming with like an SLR or a video camera, some of the filming techniques, different lenses that you can use, things like that. We are off on Wednesday. We have our last onboarding session for our OSU onboarding, and then we'll be back with you on Thursday for our low production track focused on mobile videography. And then Friday, we actually have 2 sessions. We will have a morning session from 10 to 11 on Adobe Premiere Rush, which is sort of a basic video editing platform, way more advanced than Adobe Spark, which we did a session on a number of weeks ago, but it's less advanced than what we'll be doing in the afternoon, which is Adobe Premiere Pro. So that is the snapshot of what the week is going to look like. All of these sessions will be recorded, so don't feel bad if you're going to miss a session because you can always go back and review that material after the fact. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pop up my PowerPoint presentation. As I'm doing that, I will invite you to either unmute yourself or type into the chat box what you are hoping to get out of today's session or the entire video production bootcamp. What are you all hoping to get out of this week? Video like a rock star is what Yvette says. Yes, hopefully by the end of this, you will have the tools and equipment that you need and just the knowledge that you need to produce really high quality videos. We're not going to be getting into like super specific stuff. Like we might not necessarily say like, this is how you would go about like producing, like how to put together like a video on how to put together like a recipe and cooking that recipe, which is one of like, I think the biggest requests that we get is how do I do like cooking demonstrations? Some starter knowledge, video, like beginner to video, best practices, social media videos. This is all great. Work on a video for Worcester Campus Conference Center. Since we can't do tours right now, yeah, how to make a video. Okay, so basic understanding of how to do videos. This is great. This is exactly what we're going to cover. So keep those questions coming in. What to do with videos once they are done. Yes, we're going to cover a little bit of that as well, Emily. So don't hesitate to ask questions as we go through. I'm going to ask my LOD colleagues to keep an eye on the chat. So don't hesitate to just type those in and they will interrupt me as we go along here. So let's get started with some pre-production planning. For those of you who were in our digital engagement bootcamp a number of weeks ago, I started with a strategic engagement framework, which really talked a little bit about some of the homework that needs to happen before you just jump into content development. This is so important for video production because videos are one of the more time-consuming and resource-intensive types of content to develop. And I've had people before approach me and say, hey, I spent all this time developing a video and now I don't know what to do with it. Where do I post it? Who do you think is going to view it? And I always kind of wonder, well, why did you jump into producing a video if you weren't really sure why you were producing a video? It's important to do some of that work ahead of time. So we're going to talk a little bit how to tell your story, how to frame your video. The first thing that I always like to think about, and this is kind of an instructional design approach, it's sort of a backwards approach to content design. You need to think about what objectives you have first. Typically, we tend to think about the objectives last and how we're going to measure them. At the end of content development, it's important to consider all of that at the very beginning of your content design process. And there are a couple different things that you might think about in terms of objectives with video or with any digital content. I like to call these the DIME outcomes, D-I-M-E, and that stands for diversify, inform, market, and then engage, educate, or entertain. With video content in particular, and really digital content as a whole, one of the great things about digital content development and digital engagement is you can reach a broad range of audiences. So you might develop a video with the sole purpose of reaching new audiences that maybe you've never reached before around a particular topic. The other thing that you might want to do is just inform people. So you might have, let me think of a good example here. You might have a video that you produce that's just kind of a fun, silly video to inform, let's say, 4-H families of when deadlines are for like 4-H, like fair paperwork or fair forms. And it would be purely to like inform people about a particular topic. We also might be producing a sort of a marketing video, which might be purely promotional. We could think of this as like a commercial for maybe a face-to-face event or something else that you're going to be doing. But it's really just a video to kind of get the word out about something. And then finally, we fall into this category, this engage, educate, entertain, which is my favorite category. These are videos that can really be instructional. They can be purely for entertainment value alone. There was what state was it? I can't remember what state did this. Maybe it may have been Nebraska, Amy, okay, that did a video a number of years ago for April Fool's Day. It was the newest invasive species in your garden, and it was the garden gnome. And they did this really cute like stop frame animation of like these gnomes popping up in your garden. It was not educational, it was not informational, it was just silly. It was just to entertain people. But it also offered this really sort of genuine look at, I think it was Nebraska extension, and to just show this kind of silly face of the organization. So these might be some of the outcomes that you think about as you are developing your script and your objectives for video content. Any questions about the objectives? And any examples that any of you might be able to share about how you've developed a piece of digital content, or maybe how you've gone about developing a video, and what were the objectives of that? I know some of you are doing Facebook Live videos right now. So when you think about going live on Facebook, what are some of the objectives that you all have had? Or any other video, it doesn't have to be Facebook Live. Just like developing class objectives, yes, very similar. And we'll dive a little bit deeper too in the next few moments here. We'll dive a little bit deeper into The objectives really need to be tied to a call to action. So like, what is it that you want people to do as a result of having seen this video? Facebook live streamed a chick hatch. So that was probably falling into the category of, could have been entertainment, could have been education to show that process. And it could have just even been diversifying audiences. So especially as we think about some like agricultural videos, a lot of agricultural videos are purely for the, like, to diversify audiences and inform them about what agricultural production actually looks like, because people tend to be so disconnected from food production, especially as it relates to like animal products. So what does that look like? That might be to diversify your audience. It might be to, you know, inform people about what this process really looks like. We might get into the education and entertainment a little bit. Heather said virtual farm to school field trip, show how food gets from the farm to the school. That's excellent. We have tick video was to educate about ticks, call to action to how to do a tick check and prevention. A video on wanted to maintain contact with students, yes, and interaction with their families. Yeah, so that would be the engage, right? You just want to keep that engagement going. So we all have different objectives for how we develop video. Now let's talk a little bit about the web of engagement. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here because we've already gone over this a couple of times over the last few weeks. The web of engagement basically informs, again, a little bit deeper into the objectives. Like, is this video content meant to create awareness about a particular issue? Is it meant to really help somebody engage in like a trial experience around learning about a particular issue? Is it meant to provide really deep learning, or is it meant to be advocacy? So an awareness video, let's talk about Ashley's tick example. She did a tick video on how to you know, how to understand what to do if you happen to get a tick. So we might create a video that's creating initial awareness, like, hey, it's tick season. This is what to be on the lookout for. The trial experience, we might dig a little bit deeper into learning. So we might talk a little bit about like, this is how to actually identify a tick. The deeper learning might be video content around, we could even think about like a deep learning. It could be like a 10 or 15 minute like documentary style film that really digs a little bit deeper into like the issues around ticks, and there could be a whole slew of different information that we include in there. And then finally, the advocacy. The advocacy is the big one, because this is really what we want people to do as a result of having seen this video. So the advocacy might be, you know, now that you know about ticks, this is how to make sure that you are treating your pets properly so that they don't get affected by a tick bite. It's maybe how to prevent yourself from getting a tick bite, because that could lead to something like Lyme disease. So it's really the call to action. And this is what we always want to make sure that we include really in any piece of digital content is, now that I've seen this video, unless it happened to fall in that category of pure entertainment only, where I might laugh about it and then I might share it with my audience, unless it's falling into that entertainment category, we want to make sure that people have a step forward. We want to make sure that we're telling them, okay, this is what to do as a result of having seen this. So that might be, hey, you found a tick on yourself. Here's what to do if you get a tick bite, right? So always be thinking about that next step with any video content that you produce. We do have a framework here that, again, we've talked about this quite a few times in the last few weeks. I'm going to just go over it very, very briefly. I will drop a link to it in the chat box so that you can find it on our website. The LIFE framework stands for Learn, Interpret, Frame, and Engage. It's a very simple framework that I've developed to think about your learners first. So instead of choosing, like, you might go through this framework with the idea that you're going to develop a video, and you might get through the framework and decide, you know what, a video just doesn't even make sense for my audience. Or maybe you were thinking about developing something like an online course, and you get through this framework and you think to yourself, well, maybe like a video series would be better, and we would post that on something like social media. So the LIFE framework starts by identifying who your audiences are and what are their challenges or opportunities. Now that you understand some of the things that they're facing, you start to interpret that. So this is the emotional or intellectual concept that basically tells us why my learner cares about this topic. The intellectual or emotional concept could be a single word, it could be a phrase. If we're talking about something like pesticide safety, some people care about pesticide safety because they're concerned about the environment. So our interpretive theme would be environmental health. Other people worry about the health and safety of themselves or their children. So in that case, we're worried about the health of oneself or maybe their pets. So this really is important to identify the interpretive theme because it helps us appropriately frame the content so that it's actually of interest to your audience. If you're telling me about pesticide safety and you're viewing it particularly from the perspective of environmental health, and I don't care about the environment, I do. But if I didn't care about the environment, I'm not going to pay attention to that video, because I'm like, well, who cares about the health of the planet, right? But if you frame it as it could be an issue for you as a human, or for your children, or for your pets that are spending time in your yard, then all of a sudden I start to pay a little bit more attention. So the framing is really key here. Finally, now we start to think about the engagement platform. So does it make sense to do a video? Does it make more sense for me, again, to do an online course, to do an infographic? But this is where we start to identify, you know, what content am I going to develop? And then what platforms will I disseminate that content? Some other considerations for your video content is, where is this video going to be hosted? I've gotten quite a few questions in the last few weeks about, you know, I'm trying to upload a video to my county website. Our county websites don't support video content, so you do have to host that video on another platform like YouTube or Vimeo, and from there you will embed it on your website. But our websites do not host videos natively on the platform. Think about your call to action. So that's the, what do we want our audience to do as a result of having seen this? And then finally, how are we going to evaluate success? This one's a little tricky, because if we're posting something on, let's say, Facebook, how are we going to know that this video was successful? You could view the metrics alone. So you could say, well, 100 people watch this, or 1,500 people watch this, but that's not really, that doesn't tell us the success of the video. It doesn't tell us the impact. And that's where the call to action comes into play. It could be, watch this video and then register for this program. And in that program registration, we ask, where did you learn about this? And one of the options is maybe that Facebook commercial. And maybe 50% of the people said that they registered for the program after having seen that commercial. That's the way that we can measure success of video content. And that's just one simple example. Any questions so far? I'm going to spend just a few more moments talking a little bit about storytelling and kind of framing, and then I'm going to hand it over to Rachel. But keep those questions coming in the chat. I'll keep an eye. Adobe Spark will host the video for you to embed in a website. Yeah, other programs don't. Should we be uploading videos to a personal YouTube to share from? That's a great question, Ashley, that unfortunately I don't have an answer for, because that really comes down to our social media accounts. Generally, I think the mindset has been, any video content you will forward on to marketing, and they will publish it to their extension professionals YouTube channel. And then from there, they'll give you that embed link that you can embed it on another website. And John, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Oops, sorry, just had to unmute myself. No, that's correct. And I actually have a little thing at the end that I can, when it's my turn, that I can kind of share on that.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. So let's get a little bit, let's kind of go over an example. So let's say you're trying to get kids to eat healthy. That's like the topic of your video. Part of what you do, and again, this kind of walks you through the life framework a little bit, is develop out a learner profile. So you might ask yourself questions like, what information does my learner need to be successful? That needs to go in the video. What stands between my learner and their success? So what barriers are they going to come up against? Addressing that in your video sort of content or your script is really important. And then identifying which of these barriers are internal. In other words, which of these barriers are things that my learner, my audience, can actually overcome, versus which of this stuff is like a conflict that they're not going to be able to overcome themselves. So an example of like getting your kids to eat healthy, maybe one of your biggest barriers is like, I have a kid who's just a really picky eater. That would be an internal conflict that you as a parent might be able to engage in certain methods to overcome that pickiness. An external conflict might be something like, my kid has a food allergy and we're very limited in what they can eat because of the food allergy. That's not something that you're just going to be able to solve one day. Unfortunately, we wish that we could. So thinking through some of those things. Finally, your story framework. So I'm going to kind of shoot through some of these things. So the two major frameworks that I wanted to cover are sort of a positive framing and a negative framing. So the positive framing basically looks like, what will the scenario look like if my learner uses the information that I have to give to them? What actions will they take? What will their experience be? What will they feel like? And then what transformation will take place and why? So this might be, if you get your kids to eat healthier, they're going to be more energetic. Maybe they're going to do better in school, versus a negative framing, which might look like something, if your kid doesn't eat healthy, they might be doing poorer in school. They might feel really lethargic. They might be at higher risk for, especially later in life, things like cardiovascular diseases. So if you do all of these recommendations that we're giving you, here's the positive outcome. If you don't do all of these things that we're recommending, here's the negative outcome. So again, we're kind of getting into story structure here. And Rachel and Amy are going to be able to provide a little bit more about like different film genres and different types of video. So it's going to get a little bit more specific to video from here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share and hand it over to Rachel.
Hello, everyone. Let me just pull up my screen. You know, hey, Danae, it's telling me I've been disabled.
I need to make you a host or a co-host.
Okay. So hi, everyone. I'm excited. Look at all 141 of you. Excited. Welcome to my home. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to be honest for a second. This is my first time teaching via Zoom. So should I have any issues, I'm a little nervous about managing the chat. So please just bear with me when it comes to something like that. So, all right. So I'm going to pick up where Danae left off a little bit, talking a little bit more about the thoughts you need to have in your head before you pick up that camera, right? So when it comes to making educational content, in order to have the greatest impact, we need to convey the information in the best way possible, right? So we want people to watch our video, understand what we're saying, and apply that information to their life. So my first tip would be cut out any extraneous information. So just stick to your key topics. That way it cuts down on confusion. My second tip would be to limit video length. So when it comes to making videos, sometimes it can be difficult to hold people's attention. So, you know, what's going to be that thing that's going to stop them when they're scrolling through their Facebook page? So, I don't really have like amount of time or anything that I would suggest to limit videos to, because it's going to depend on what your content is, where you're delivering that video. You know, it's going to be different if you're posting on YouTube versus Instagram. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but just keep them short. And if you're finding that you have a lot of longer videos, cutting them into a series of shorter videos is a really great way to keep that video length down. And then my third tip would be keep the videos engaging. Right, so this kind of goes back to that mission of Studio 149. We're trying to make educational videos fun, engage with your audiences. You know, in education, there's a lot of times people are using video a lot, which is good because it's a good tool to teach with, but sometimes it's just not being used to its full extent, right? So when we have the time and we have the knowledge to be able to expand on video and make it really fun, we can really impact our audiences in a greater way. Excuse me one second. So that brings me to the question, right? How do we make our content more engaging? So first of all, as usual, we have to keep our audience in mind, right? So what is going to capture their attention? What are they interested in? What's going to get them to stop scrolling, right? And in order to do this, I suggest pull inspiration from everything around you, right? There's so much video content that we see every day. When you're scrolling through your Facebook page, pay attention to what videos you're seeing on there. Maybe go to YouTube, search a subject you're interested in, what videos already exist about that subject matter. You know, even when you're scrolling through Netflix or Hulu or whatever streaming service that you have, there's endless content that you can watch and you can pull inspiration from. So when you get on something like Netflix, you're gonna have most of the time the content is separated out into film genres. So I've just got a couple here: documentary, action adventure, comedy, horror, science fiction, drama. And these are just a couple different options, right? So all of these genres, they all have a different style, different themes, different ways that they're made that you can pull from when you're making your videos. So for example, maybe you're making a video about an on-farm research trial, and you're thinking, okay, how can I engage with my audience? Maybe, you know, I was watching this thriller or this horror movie last night, and I had this feeling of suspense. How can I take that suspenseful feeling, add it into this video? So maybe you are building suspense of which trial is going to have the most impact on my field, which treatment is going to increase yield, right? Or maybe you want to build up the drama of how important it is to drive safely when it comes to a cartoons video or something like that. And I always say that if you are having fun when you're making a video, then people are more likely to have fun when they're watching the video. So, you know, enjoy what you're doing, have fun making videos. I think you're going to get the best content when you're enjoying what you make. Excuse me. So when you're looking at this list of genres, probably the one that's most relevant to what we're making would be documentary, because it is based on fact. So there's all different kinds of documentaries out there. Just endless different styles. So you could focus on an experience, focus on observations of the world around you. You can inform audiences, you can persuade audiences, you can connect with people's emotions, back to what Danae was saying with that interpretation message. What's going to get that audience to really connect with the information you're telling them? And then when it comes to making documentaries, you know, you can include a narrator or not include a narrator. You can include yourself as a filmmaker as a part of that story. So there's a lot of different inspirations you can pull from documentary filmmaking. Just one second, sorry. And so I think a lot of us are probably watching a lot more Netflix and TV and things because we're kind of stuck inside right now. So I encourage you, when you're watching those things, think about, you know, what it's made, all the thoughts that were put in behind the scenes to get you that content. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And all of this can help inspire and inform you when you start making video content of your own. So does anyone have any questions so far? Anything that they'd like me to go back over? If not, I'm just gonna kind of keep rolling here. So no matter what inspiration or genre you're pulling from, there are some universal story structures that are really helpful that you can use to structure the information in your video. So the first one I'm going to run through real quick is the 3-act story structure. This one is kind of the like bread and butter, you know, screenwriting 101. They're going to walk you through how to use this. So first of all, you start off with Act 1. This is called the exposition. So this is when you're meeting your main character, meeting the hero, you're learning that they have a problem. Act 2 is the rising action. So this is their trial and error. They're trying to find a solution to that problem. And the solution is called the climax. And then we move on to Act 3, which is kicked off by the climax. And in Act 3, this is where the hero applies that solution to their problem, all is well. And that's, again, where that call to action comes forward. So if we're going to go back to Danae's example about wanting to feed healthy food to your children. So Act 1, we have a parent who wants to feed healthy food to their kids, but they don't have time during the week. So Act 2, we find that, or I'm sorry, Act 1, we're meeting the hero. We're meeting that their issue is that they can't feed healthy food to their kids during the week. Act 2, we see them try and fail to cook meals. They end up going to McDonald's, perhaps. And then the climax, they find that if they meal prep at the beginning of the week, then they've got plenty of healthy food in their refrigerator for them to eat over the week. And then Act 3, we see them cooking with their kids, eating healthy meals with their kids. And that's that call to action that if you meal prep, you can feed healthy food to your kids. So then I'm going to move on to another story structure. This one is called Problem, Agitate, Solve. So this one's pretty much exactly, you know, it says it in the name. So the problem, you show what the problem is. Agitate, you show why your character has this problem. And solve, you show the solution to the problem. So going back to that same example, the problem is that the parent doesn't have enough time to prepare healthy meals for their kid. Agitate, the reason why they have problem, or I'm so sorry, the problem is that they aren't feeding healthy food to their kids. Agitate is they don't have time to make healthy food for their kids. And the solution is to meal prep. So this story structure is actually really common in infomercials. So you'll see all the time there's someone who can't cut up their vegetables for dinner, and then the reason why they can't cut them is because their knife is too dull. And then the solution is that they get this nice shiny new knife that can like cut through a shoe or something, right? So that's another different story structure that you can use when you're creating your content. And you don't have to be, you know, creating a feature-length studio film in order to use these. You can apply these structures to a short educational video as well. So with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Amy, and she's going to run through the next steps when it comes to pre-production.
Thanks, Rachel. So, you know, we've covered these story structures and framing and all this great stuff. And then it gets fed into your storyboard, which is a critical part of pre-production work. You really want to have all of your homework done before you get to video, especially if any of you are going to be doing collaborative work or being in the field. If you've got a lot of people coming together for this video, you want to make the most of your time in production when everybody's in front of the camera, you've got all the equipment. Or if you're in the field outdoors and you're, you know, relying on weather, you need to make sure you get everything done and you're ready to go. So this is why we really need to think about our storyboarding before we get out there and just start going after it. So in your storyboard, you're going to want to include an outline of everything from start to finish, and that includes you know, your hook for engagement, why this matters, the interpretation, and, you know, all the way through to your call of action, and try to put that in the order you want it to appear in the video. And while you're doing that, you also want to try to script out anything that might be said by the people or the characters featured in your video. And this can be, some folks are a little more comfortable in front of the camera. So this might be a simple list of talking points. If they're not comfortable in front of the camera, you may actually have like cue cards off to the side, or there's some teleprompter apps out there where you just fill out a full script. And this is also helpful kind of in the end stages too, when you're considering captioning. But it's really important to kind of have that script outlined as well, because that'll help make sure that you've got all the scenes that you want featured in your video accounted for. And that goes along and feeds into our list of shots. So when you have this general outline in your script, you also want to be incorporating a descriptive list of shots that you want. So this might be like a panoramic shot over a field, or it might be, I don't know, drone footage or a close-up of a piece of machinery. So this just basically helps you draft the whole story from start to finish, and can also consider your learning objectives when you're making this list of shots, because and your audience, if you've got something super specific and technical, you might need some more close-ups or some more description in your script to help guide users or participants through the video. And then the last item you want to consider as part of your storyboard is B-roll, which is actually extra footage that you might overlay with some narration. And that can just really help with the general feel and look of your video, so you're not just staring at a person in front of a camera. And so that's kind of generally how we go about storyboarding. This can be really, you know, just written out on paper, which is typically what I've done. Rachel's going to have some great examples of graphic storyboards in the upcoming slides, where there's more pictures and things to go with photos or pictures. I see some stuff rolling in the chat here. Suggestions if you're working with kids. Yeah, obviously you're not going to get a full script with kids, but you know, you definitely are going to want to just identify your key learning objective and make sure that is covered in some way, shape, or form. The beauty of that with children is it's going to be really organic, right? Like if you cover it, it's going to be however that kid made it up, and it's going to be great. So just always keep your mind on your learning objectives, even if it maybe doesn't necessarily come out in this really tidy, neat list that I'm describing here, which is this sort of process is really helpful for more, you know, really heavy investment stuff where you've got a lot of people. I mean, you still need a storyboard regardless, but the more in depth you go, it's really helpful for these more high input productions. And you know, it depends on who you're working with. So that's pretty much all I have for this slide. Rachel, do you want to take it over and kind of go over the camera angles and the graphic storyboards that you've got on the upcoming slides?
Yes, thanks, Amy. Yeah, so storyboarding, as she said, is really important because a lot of times when you get out in the field, things can go wrong. And the stronger your plan is, then the easier it is to stick to when things kind of start going crazy. So I have some examples of storyboards here. So basically, this is a graphic representation of a film sequence. So you're kind of taking that shot list that Amy was talking about, and you're making it into a visual image, what you're going to be showing on screen. So we've got, you know, at the bottom here, this is a really well done storyboard. These are professional drawings, but that's not always necessary. So in the right-hand corner, there's just some stick figures, you know, that's fine. That gets the point across. As long as you know what you're going for, then all is good. So along with a drawing, you're going to include a little description of what's going to happen in that scene. So it might be the action of the person, a little bit of the dialogue, just little notes here and there to remind yourself what's going on in that scene. And then you can also write information about your camera. So your camera movement, maybe you're tracking someone walking, maybe you're panning up to the sky, different things like that, so that when you're in the field, you look down at that storyboard and you know exactly what you're doing. So storyboards can be super easy. If you want to make one, there's a lot of templates that are free online that you can just download. And we have an opportunity coming out for you guys where you can participate in making some storyboards. So keep an eye out for that. We're gonna talk about that at the end of the session today. And then when you're storyboarding, this is kind of the time where you get to have a lot of fun with film, I think. There is, depending on the way that you film something, can pull out different emotions from your viewer. It can tell different information to the viewer. So if you're looking at the shot angles I have here on the left, maybe if you film someone at a low angle, like kind of like my camera is now, sometimes that will make the subject seem like they have the power, they have the upper hand. Sometimes can make them seem a little bit evil, hopefully not in this case. So that is informing you about me, the character, based on how you filmed them, right? Or if we're looking at shot size, how much information do you want to include in the frame, right? So if you're showing the wide expanse of a field, you're gonna wanna include all of that field in frame as much as you can. So you're gonna wanna do a long shot, extreme long shot, try to get all that information in. Or if you're filming a scene where you're trying to convey a lot of emotion, trying to show the facial expressions of a character, you're gonna wanna do something like a close-up, medium close-up, really get in there so that the audience can understand what that character is going through. So, you know, this is part where you have fun, you know, that thing you watched on Netflix, maybe there's something, a really interesting shot that they did that you thought would be cool to try. Or we've had, you know, when we've worked with educators across the state when they're doing videos with their on-farm research, we had someone put their phone on the ground and they ran a combine over it. And I really don't recommend this. Please don't put your equipment in harm's way, but that was really creative, and that was getting to that new perspective that video has the chance to show people that, you know, not necessarily we can always see that perspective, right? So I think, again, have fun. Making videos is a lot of fun, I think. And I think that's how we're gonna get the best content. So I think with that, I'm gonna pass it back to Danae if you wanted to share with, I think, John.
Yes, I think we will open it up for questions, and then we'll pass it over to John for information about branding. And the reason why we really wanted John to kind of pop in here and offer some advice, especially from the college perspective, is I hear a lot of people come to me and say things like, I haven't done any video because I'm so afraid of doing the branding wrong and I don't want to get in trouble. And that's not just true of video, it's actually true of a lot of different digital content types. We don't want people to be afraid of engaging in content development because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble because the brand was wrong. So any questions, and I have a couple that have come in here, and then we'll pass it over to John. Jenny asked about the shooting something for the bug zoo. You know, if you want to show off your bugs, but you're kind of struggling how to create that narrative, how to create the story. I offered some info in the chat box, and I was, why can't I think of his name right now? I watch all of his videos, like the awesome like voiceover videos of the animals that he does, and they're not always the most appropriate. In fact, most of them aren't even remotely appropriate. Yeah, my husband passed into Frank. Yes. I would probably not take the approach of going like highly inappropriate, but you could do something along those same lines, right? Where it's like, here's a voiceover of maybe you have different insects interacting in the bug zoo, and you could do like a really stupid voiceover, which would just be of like pure entertainment value, right? But it gets people interested in these creatures. I'm a bug lover myself. And it would just be a really cool, like kind of silly thing to do. So simple programs to include text and photos. So actually our Friday sessions, Jenny, will focus on Adobe Premiere Rush and Adobe Premiere Pro. Our 10 a.m. session will focus on Rush, which is probably, if you have no experience with video editing, is probably the platform for you. This is a program that's available through our Adobe Creative Cloud license through the university. So everybody should have access, assuming you work for Ohio State. And we may have some guests on the call who are not with OSU, but it is available for download. And it's just a very simple, like easy to use. It's called Adobe Premiere Rush, because if you're in a rush and you need to like create a video and post it on social media, it's a really great platform to use. The benefit of Rush is that you can download the app on your mobile device. You can start a video project like on your phone or iPad, and then you could just transfer that whole video project to your desktop computer or laptop via the cloud. So it's a really great program to use. And again, we will be covering that on Friday morning. So keep those questions coming in, everybody. I'm gonna hand it over to John to talk a little bit about video production from his perspective. I know he has a wealth of knowledge to offer us. He's saying, oh, no, I don't. But yeah, a little bit more about branding and then just some stuff that we can offer from that college perspective.
Okay, good. Let's see. I did have some slides that I was going to share.
Yes, we can make you a co-host. I can't because
Okay.
you have to be the host of the meeting. So Jared, I think you have access to do that.
Let's see. I'll wait here. Will it tell me all of a sudden I'm a co-host?
It will.
Still waiting.
Yeah, Jared's probably just scrolling through all of the participants to find your name.
I was just trying to find him. You should be good to go now, John.
Oh, looks like I'm good here. Okay, let me pull this up. Dismiss that. Here we go. Guys seeing it now?
Yep.
Full screen. Okay. That's just my title slide. Let's get past that. If I can figure out how to get it to do it. There we go. That's the end. No. So these are brand resources that I figure I just would say up front. A lot of you folks have probably seen this. This is the college brand site here, the one that CFAES has a lot of college information in there and templates. And then of course there's the OSU brand site. That's where you get your information on, which again, a lot of you probably seen this, but your logos, your colors, your typefaces, stuff like that, information on how to use all of that. From the college level, we do have we call ourselves a BAT team, which would be the brand team for review and for also if you have something that you want to send in for review, but also just for consultation. With a group within marketing communication that reviews materials for compliance. I don't want to scare anybody away with that word, just like Nay was saying, you know, please don't think of it as, I've heard people use the word brand police. You know, we don't see it that way. We're just charged by the university with making sure that things are in alignment with what the brand spells out. We do the same thing with our materials that we create here. If I make a video, I make sure it gets reviewed, looks like it's in compliance and we're using everything properly. We do really want to be here as a resource to help you and not just be in your way. I really try to take that approach as not being a roadblock, but be more of a facilitator, answering questions, helping point you in the right directions, helping you get the things that get your educational information that really needs to get out there, helping get that out there for people who need it. I'm just a part of the team. I do the review for video pieces that come in. Also in consultation with our designers, because there's a lot of design in videos, so I'll go ahead and ask them questions on that as well. It's kind of a collaborative discussion. It does evolve from time to time, because there's times when we think, you know, is this the best way to do that? Do we need to rethink this? If we develop some new guidelines for how to use different aspects and stuff like that. So that's something that does go on. This is the email down below where we have people submit pieces for review. I think you can also find that off of our marketing, CFAES marketing webpage. That email's in there. Let's see. So these are some brand elements that are available for download that have to do with video. We have a lower third name key that's available. We have an open close clips with logo. There's a templated title page. These are just simple things that I found that are helpful for people who maybe don't have a lot of expertise creating a lot of their own video assets. The open and close are video files, drag and drop into your timeline. You don't have to do anything to them. They just play. It has a logo on it. Our designers were looking to have one that also includes the tag with the logo, because we've started talking about, particularly in this time where a lot of people are creating content even more than they ever have before, because that's the best way they can deliver stuff is through distance. So we've had a lot of people asking us about creating video content to put online. And we're really trying to simplify things for people by making, if we can give them an asset that has the logo and the tag in it and they can just drop it into a timeline, it really gets them, you know, along the way as far as getting their stuff up to brand. And again, there's the university has some video assets on there that are available. I talked about submitting content to YouTube. This is the link. I'm just going to do this to show you what that does. It takes you to our website here. This is the video, the brand website. This is the video photography section. This is that link down here for submitting content to YouTube on our Extension Professional site that I think Danae talked about earlier. You just would go in there and fill this information out. We like to have a title and description and some keywords. And then you send that in. You'll get a follow-up email from us for how to then go ahead and submit the actual video file for that. But that would be for submitting stuff to the Extension YouTube site. And I guess that's all I had was questions at that point for this slideshow. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'd like to share on that. Like I mentioned, we've had an influx of people wanting to submit videos and submit videos for review and get them up there. So we've really tried to streamline what we're asking of people. The biggest thing I would say is that we run into is people not necessarily using the logo properly. They might have things crammed in near it, or it might be in conjunction with other logos and it's not maybe necessarily used properly, or improper typefaces. That's a big one that we've run into. So just making sure you're using university typefaces, fonts, and university colors. Those are big things we run into. And we like to have the logo, the college logo on pieces. So
we've got some stuff that rolled in the chat for you, John.
Sure.
So Doug Fox says, is there any way we could get an open close asset with the college logo? Doug, we've got a link. I'm pretty sure that's still posted at the brand website. But this second part, John, I think is a big request across 4-H. Are there any lower thirds or open close slides with the college and 4-H branding correctly?
Yeah. Yes. So I will tell you this, that's a good question. We're actually having some designers work on that. They're working on an intro that could, it's not available yet. I'll go ahead and check on that, but I just had a discussion last week. Something that would also, and this is where I rely on the designers, because this is really a design question. Even though it's video, it really comes down to design. So I will come back to them and say, hey, can you help me figure out a way that we can satisfy having Extension, which is not supposed to have its own logo, but we want to make sure that we represent that, and also 4-H, which obviously does have its own logo because it's a national brand. So I will follow up on those. I'll make a note because I know that our designers were working on intros that would have, I believe, both of those things. One that would have Extension, one would have 4-H. So that is a good question. So I'm going to finish writing that down. Yeah. Okay. So let's see.
The other question it looks like is the
Yes.
brand team,
Mhm.
can they add like the logo, like the intros and stuff for the videos, like the branded elements? Or is that something that should really be done in the hands of whoever's creating the video, and then the brand team kind of just approves it
Yeah.
or helps with that?
Yeah, we don't really want to take on doing production ourselves with stuff just because we have a full workload of stuff we're working on. We just try to look at it for review and provide consultation. I did notice a question up here that I thought I would answer. It had to do with Facebook page natively versus YouTube.
Yeah, I added a bit about that. We have a lot of people who want to add stuff to YouTube and then just grab that YouTube link and post it to Facebook. That's generally a bad practice because Facebook and YouTube are direct competitors. So Facebook will not prioritize any content that you link, even links to other third-party platforms. Like if you're linking something to Zoom, like a Zoom recording, Facebook doesn't generally like that. They want to see stuff like posted natively to their platform. So if you are going to post something like a short video, make sure that you're uploading that to Facebook natively. And then if you also want that to go on your website, you could send it to marketing so that they can upload it to the YouTube channel. They'll get you that embed link and then you can embed it there on your website. Just generally a best practice. It does create a little bit more work for yourself, but it's going to be worth it for the engagement in the end.
That is exactly right. It's exactly what we do. We post things both places because there's reasons to do it at both places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to see here.
Feel free to keep those questions coming in. We do have one final announcement that we want to make about a video challenge that we're opening up this week. Just fun and exciting. Hopefully you will all participate. But any final questions before we announce that? You can feel free to unmute yourselves too. You don't need to just use the chat. Neighbor is mowing the lawn. Is your, who said that? Zoom, okay. I was gonna say, my neighbor is mowing the lawn too. I can hear them. Because it's finally a bright, sunny day. All right, let's see what else. The garden, thank you for that, Stacy. It was Utah State Extension with the garden gnome video. I appreciate that. All right, so let's announce our summer safety video challenge. We thought that we would put out a challenge to all of you just for fun. No strings attached. You're not going to win anything like big grand prize because let's be honest, we can't do that. But we wanted to just give you all an opportunity to use some of the skills that you're going to be learning this week through the boot camp. We're calling this the Summer Safety Video Challenge, which is basically a challenge to create a storyboard for a 30-second video around a summer safety tip. We thought that this is relevant across all program areas that Extension serves. So regardless of whether you're in A&R, regardless of whether you're in FCS or community development or 4-H, it could be any summer safety tip. So it could be things like, being safe with bees in your yard. Be safe, get it? Pun intended. It could be, everybody's like, it's not funny. It could be something about like lawnmower safety. It could be grilling safety. It could be like you're planning, to eat outdoors, like with your family and have like a campfire, fire safety, food. It could be anything, right? Like the sky's the limit here. We're going to invite you to submit a storyboard. It could be a beautifully done visual storyboard, or it could be something like a written script. Submit those at go.osu.edu/summer safety, or you can email them to me at wolf.540 by this Friday at 5 p.m. And then our LOD team, along with Studio 149 input, we will announce winners next Friday. So we're going to invite you just to do something kind of fun and educational. Think about some of the things that we went over here today, like what's your intent? Is this to diversify your audience, to reach a new audience? Is it to just inform? Is it to market a program? Is it to educate, entertain, engage people? It could be any of those things. We will be sending out some other emails, and we'll post this information to our Facebook group so that you have it. Or you can just take a screenshot of this if you want to make sure you have that. But we will be posting some additional information about that, again, just for fun, if you want to participate. And I did see some other questions come in from Marie. Do we need a photo release if something in the video is not from like an employee? That's a great question, and I never know what to tell you. I'm going to open that up to John because you probably know way more than I do.
That's funny. Yes. You know, I think we have, and I'll check to see, but I think we have a release on our site, or the university I know does. And the best thing I would say to you on that is when in doubt, get a release. It's kind of like the food safety thing, right? When in doubt, throw it out. When in doubt, get a release. We shoot a lot of things with people where they're faculty, they're people on campus. We don't get releases from our professors or our researchers, but you know, if we go out and we're looking to do photos or something like a Farm Science Review or a big event, if it's somebody who's going to be featured, not just in the background walking, but if it's somebody who's going to be featured, we get releases.
Yeah. And does that change, John, if we're talking about youth? Like, let's say we went out to a fairground and we were doing some filming at a fairground. What does that release look like?
That's, you know, I would rely a lot on 4-H people to be able to give me, you know, information on that. But when we shoot youth, it generally involves 4-H, and we try to make sure we have either 4-H itself or somebody has releases on file from obviously parents or guardians, or we would look to get them ourselves from adults, from guardians or parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Doug said you've been told, so yeah, our 4-Hers and MGV should have photo releases on file.
Yeah.
But if you're like at a county fair and you're just kind of doing some footage of kids in the background, Doug, you've been told that that would be public domain.
Yeah. Go ahead, somebody.
My understanding of that is that if people's likenesses cannot be made out, then it could be considered public domain, but you have to be very careful, because if you're close enough that someone's likeness can be made out, you need a release. So just keep that in mind.
And I know that gets kind of weird too with like if you're in a public space versus a private space, right? It's a little bit different there too.
In public, there's no expectation of privacy.
Correct.
And so that's by law anyway.
Correct.
We run into that a lot ourselves. Like I said, I mentioned Farm Science Review. If we go up and we want somebody featured in a photo or a video, if it looks like, hey, they're doing the action, we get a release. If they just are in the background walking, to me, it's kind of like, hey, if you're at a Ohio Stadium and you get on TV, I have actually told them, I'm like, they should put something on the back of the ticket at Farm Science Review that says, hey, if you end up in marketing material because you're in the background, that's just, I don't know. That's what I've said. They should put that on there. It's an expectation. Like if you go to Ohio Stadium or you go to the state fair, you might be walking in the background of somebody's marketing picture.
Sure.
That's my non-legal expertise.
Yes, the non-legal. Well, with that, I want to thank our presenters. I want to thank Studio 149. I want to thank John for being here today. Of course, our LOD members. Amy, thank you so much for helping. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but we will stay on to answer additional questions if anybody would like to stick around.